Great. Hi, my name's Ruth Sternberg. I am a career navigation coach helping job seekers to explain their value to employers so that they can get an interview and an offer. I am bringing you interviews with various career professionals and job seekers to provide you with a little bit of confidence and some advice to help you in your job search. And today I am talking with Mark Matson. Mark spent 30 years in the human resources field and knows the hiring process very, very well. He's now retired from the field, but very recently, and so he has a lot of knowledge. And Mark, I'm going to let you say a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, good morning, Ruth. Nice to be with you. So I began my HR career as a recruiter, but I've been a generalist, what's called a generalist in HR, meaning a jack of all trades. So I've noticed a lot of different sides of organizations. And my position was eliminated as part of a cost reduction about a year ago. So I found myself back out in the field on the other side of human resources, trying to find a job. And that was challenging as particularly being a late career. So I've had the experience on both sides of the fence, if you might. So hopefully people can benefit from my experience.
Great, and they will. I wanted to start by asking you to just talk a little bit about what it's like to be in human resources, because I think a lot of people who don't work in the field see HR people as being the gatekeepers, and sometimes I don't know, there's a lot of maybe not very true feelings about working with people from HR. And I just want everybody to understand what the job is really like.
Yeah, I think that's would probably be most helpful. So let's just talk about the current state right now of business. The current state of business is that business's top priority is to reduce costs, reduce time that it takes to get things done, and optimize profits, especially if it's a publicly traded company. What that translates to internally, and many of you probably know this, is reduced staffing. And that puts pressure on everyone. And that includes human resources. So if it's a large company, the person probably is focusing on recruiting most of their day, if not all of their day. But most companies that people apply to are going to be smaller and middle-sized companies where the HR person is likely to be a generalist, meaning they're not only doing recruiting, they're doing employee relations, which is a headache in itself. They may be partly responsible for benefits administration. They could be doing training in the organization, employee morale, culture, etc. Okay. Point is, there's a lot on their plate. And that's true of the hiring manager probably as well. So the main reason that you don't get a response from these people very quickly, if at all, in my opinion, has a lot to do with that, what I just talked about, is people trying to juggle a lot of balls with a little bit of time, do more with less, etc. It's something all of us are familiar with, and that's at work. Now, that said, what causes a particular position to go to the top of the pile? That's the first question, is the position critical, let alone the people that apply for it? And my experience is, usually when a requisition comes to human resources to fill a position, it's hot stuff. The manager thinks, hey, listen, we got to get this. This is really important. I got an important gap in my chain here, etc. And then life happens. And so HR will hustle to get the job posted, get it out there, start getting resumes in. They start coming in, and we find that the hiring manager is not responding. We're sending them off to the hiring manager, but we're not getting anything back. It's like ping, 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 nothing is coming back. So we have to chase down the hiring manager to say, hey, what's going on? These leads are getting cool. I think we've got 3 good ones here if we don't act fast, et cetera, et cetera. And the hiring manager may recognize that. And that's again my experience. Yeah, I know. But we've got this project for this customer that's got to be done by such and such. And as you know, I just lost Tammy last week, my project manager, and blah, blah, blah. Okay. So when the job appeared first in human resources, it was hot. And then life happened, and now it's in the back burner. The applicants don't know that at all. So I'm just trying to explain 2 common things that I've seen on the inside of the organization. As a job seeker, it's hard not to take that personally. It's very frustrating. And I've been there. I've been on the other side of HR, and I've been upset with people in my profession thinking, can't you even return my call? You know, hello, are you out there?
But you know probably what's happening on the other
Well,
side. So,
yes.
yeah.
So I just have to tell myself, all right, this isn't personal. This is business. I've got to get smarter about how I get to the top of the field of candidates. And that's probably the biggest challenge we face is, do I know anyone in the organization who can give me a clue about what's going on internally? If you do, that's a huge step forward. It's if you have somebody inside the company who can be your advocate. I've had in my years in HR, anytime somebody inside the company brought me a resume and told me something positive about this person and said, I think you really ought to look at this person, they go right to the top of my pile, because I now have a personal reference. It's kind of like a neighbor saying to you, oh, you need to have your car repaired. Let me tell you about so-and-so,
Right.
Great
Right. And this
experience.
is, Mark, this is what I teach my coaching clients.
Yeah.
Many people, and their idea of a job search is to send out 300 applications in various applicant tracking systems and just wait. And someone that I know got a job doing that, but this person sent out more than 200 applications, and it took a really long time. And I think that that's effort that you don't need to spend. You can work smarter. And you and I've talked about this before, about how important your network really is. Can you talk a little bit more about that? What you
Yes.
try to do?
So I learned that quite a bit as a job seeker, because I worked with an outplacement firm who was a company that was helping me, and I'd say mid to later career professionals who lost their jobs through no fault of their own. What my point being is, I've been at the table with about a dozen different people like myself out in the market searching for jobs, and we've all compared notes, et cetera, right? And so, what I've learned from that is, in terms of networking, is the 3 degrees of separation. You probably know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody at that company, or somebody who knows somebody. You're 2 degrees away. And the only way I could find out is if I'm particularly interested in a company, so I'm thinking of a particular company I applied to, I really thought, this is a place I want to work. I love what this organization is about, and I want to be a part of their team. That helps a whole lot right there. Because if you're enthusiastic about the place that you're applying to, that's going to come across. If it's just a place to work, that's going to come across as well. But let's say it's a place you want to work. Now, I got on my email, my Christmas card list, whatever you want to call it, and I started informing people saying, I'm looking for a job. As you know, I'm in the field, and this is the kind of job, and there is an opportunity at such and such a company, and I really want to work there. Do you know anyone there, or do you know someone who knows someone who might know someone there? So let me give you an example. This is from years ago. I was interested in a position at Chemical Abstracts, large company, right? I had no personal contacts there myself. But I did this. And within a day, I was put in contact with somebody I did not personally know, but they were the relative. I think it was an in-law of somebody I did know. And I said, would you mind, ask the person if I could call them to just ask them some questions about the company. And so the answer was yes. And people, what I found out is people are usually very willing to help if you ask, because I'm one of those people that's reluctant to ask because I don't want to put someone out. I don't want to put someone in a, awkward spot or whatever, but people are willing to help. And I am. If somebody asks me, I'm always usually willing to help. So contacted the person, and they knew nothing about that job specifically, but they did know a lot about the company. And they were able to tell me, one of the things I learned was at that particular point in time, almost half of the workforce at Chemical Abstracts was eligible for retirement within 5 years. Now that tells me that's a huge clue in terms of what human resources is worried about. How are we going to replace these highly skilled people, right? So what it did is it gave me good inside information that informed my cover letter, because I had done research. So even though that person inside wasn't able to walk my resume to human resources and say, I know this person, you need to pay attention to this person, I got some good information by simply asking my network, does anybody out there know somebody who knows something about such and such a company?
Exactly.
The second thing is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a powerful tool, which I learned recently how to use in terms of doing a search for people who are at the organization you want to connect with. And you learn how to send out a message to these folks about, as a job seeker. It's really more efficient and effective than what I just described.
The other thing I wanted to ask you about, and I also wanted to say that, all the stuff that you're talking about is it's gold, because a job search isn't just about your resume. Your resume is just a document that has some information on it you can share about yourself, but the connections that you make are really how you get hired. And that's really the essence of your job search. But there is a lot of concern about how a resume is viewed, because no matter how many contacts you have and how good they are, someone is going to say to you, go ahead and submit, right? Or perhaps you've already submitted before you started making connections. So a lot of larger companies are using applicant tracking systems, and it's software that actually compares what they're looking for with what is written down on your document. And that really confuses people a lot. So can you tell us a little bit about first of all, what does that look like on the back end when you get that stuff submitted?
Yeah, so applicant tracking is it's a form of artificial intelligence. It's no different than going on Google and doing a search. So last night, I'm trying to figure out how do I take bleach spots out of a sweater. And I did a Google search, and in a Google search, it's the keywords that you put in the search.
And it said ruined. Your shirt's ruined. No.
Actually, I have a solution I'm going to try. But it's the same principle, right? So take what I've already said about very little time, pressure to get things done. As an HR person, the hiring manager is my internal customer. That's the person I'm concerned about, not you as my external customer necessarily, okay? It depends. There can be HR people who recognize that the people in the job market are my number one customer, okay? But I don't think the majority of people. So anyway, an applicant tracking system helps to speed up the whole process. And we think of it as terms of being efficient. And so what happens internally is a job description is in place. Manager says, I've got an opening. HR has some kind of a form for a job posting. They rely on the hiring manager to state what is most critical and important about the job. HR people are usually telling them that needs to come from the job description. Why is that? because of the Americans with Disabilities Act, which requires that job descriptions have the key critical functions in the job, et cetera, et cetera. So
Right.
in a quick process, someone completes a form that says, this is what I need and what's most important in the job. Whatever they put into that goes into the applicant tracking system as keywords to look for in a search. And what it's looking for is all the resumes that are received. What percentage of those keywords are appearing in their resume or cover letter? It's usually the resume. Now, you'll notice when you apply, you almost always have to apply online now, right? Because you're dealing with artificial intelligence. It's not like, mailing something in, someone's going to get that, right? Some companies will invite you to put a cover letter in. That's wonderful. Do it and spend time and craft your cover letter. You can have a standard cover letter, but make sure that a good number of those keywords in the posting appear in your cover letter and in your resume if possible. What you're doing is you're optimizing your chances that you're going to come up to the top of the pile, what the HR person sees, and it may be a hiring manager. Increasingly, HR departments are being shorter staffed, and so this is getting pushed to the hiring manager for people. One more thing they have to do. And so they'll see a screen, and the computer is going to tell them, here are the people that had the highest match between what you're looking for and what they bring to the table. It's like a dating game, right? And so that's how you're going to rise to the top. So look at your cover letter and your resume, and you need to customize it. If you want to optimize your chances, you need to spend time customizing that document for the posting, because doing a scattershot approach isn't going to work.
Yes, people just, they want a resume to send out to X number of places. That does not work. You have to, you don't have to rewrite your resume for every job. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is generally it's the same type of role, but you're going to want to go back and look at what is being asked of inside that description and make sure that you're describing things the same way that they're describing them, right? So that it matches up.
Correct.
That's great. That's great advice, because that's the one thing that confuses people. And I'll tell you, it's worth, plug for myself and others like me, it's worth getting help with your resume. This stuff's not easy to figure out. You've got to pass muster, because you could be great. You could be the best engineer on earth, but if your resume gets skipped, you're not even going to get an interview. I mean, you need to be in the pile somewhere in the first place, right?
It's like Senate on your house. Okay. You can talk about what a great house it is, but the devil's in the details. But how do you market a house on the market? Now you can, of course, get photographs, which help a great deal. But I'm just saying it's similar. You're marketing yourself. And you've got
Exactly.
let's say in the housing market right now, I use that metaphor, there's been a real shortage of housing in Central Ohio. And so it's a seller's market. So they don't have to really pay that much attention, because people are desperate to find houses, right? But that's not the case in the labor market. We're now talking about somewhere between 15 to 20% unemployment. You're going to be competing with a lot of people for jobs. So that just means you need to be smarter than the most of them, and that means work. So working with someone like you who can help, who's a professional, who understands this is what you do for a living, how to make that resume not only wend its way through an automated system more effectively, but when it does get to somebody who sits down with a pile of these, I'll tell you now, I'm a little more old-fashioned, but I will sit down, I'll print out these resumes and sit down and go through a stack of them, because I like to make notes on them. I like to highlight them. Now I'm down to the top 10%, let's say. I'm visually looking at a document, and the way it's organized helps me quickly to surmise whether or not this is somebody that I put in my A pile, my B pile, or my C pile. And I have to do it quickly. because let's just say I'm a recruiter and it's one of 16 positions I'm responsible for. I have 16 hiring managers in the organization, all barking at me about their job. Um, and I've got employee relations issues, and I've got to prepare a training class for the next day, et cetera. If I have to go through it quickly, that's all about the visuals to me of how that document is organized.
Oh yeah, it's very important. It just can't be a giant list.
No,
Things have to stand out. They have to be highlighted, bolded. I mean, you have to think very strategically about what it is you're trying to emphasize that
I
needs to
get
be seen.
yeah, I get irritated with the biography. I don't want a biography. Okay, stuff. I don't want all this verbiage. You've got to be efficient with your language. 2 pages, make it visually succinct. Make sure that you're highlighting your accomplishments, what you've contributed, not what you've done. It's not about doing, I was responsible for this. Well, what difference did you make in the business?
That's right. And I'm just saying, you can do this on your own, but it can be really hard. And having somebody like me to ask questions and help you dig deeply into this stuff so you can find out the right answers it's worth doing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Because you spend your time, Ruth, talking to people who are looking for jobs. Your job is to continually improve your value proposition. You're talking to people offline, like myself. I know that. I know that you're out and about talking to people who might have insights or information that can be helpful to your clients. So if I engage you to help me, I'm tapping into your dedicated, focused attention to the topic that's of most importance to me right now.
Correct. Well, you've given us some great advice. Was there anything that you forgot to add?
Let's see, is there anything? I would say be kind to HR people because, you know, there's just a lot going on in the background and it's frustrating. And particularly today.
Yes, we're actually recording this during the quarantine. So.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Um, and think about, don't just get frustrated because you're not getting a response. Think about how can I get a response? And it's usually through your networking and attention to detail on your how you're presenting yourself.
Thank you, Mark. This was really great. So let's just briefly recap. We've talked a little bit, in case you want to go back through this video, we talked about who are HR people, what's their job like. We talked about this concept of artificial intelligence and how it's used in the applicant tracking system and why it's really important to pay attention to keywords. And we've also talked about networking and how that knowing people is really, really important and perhaps the most important thing about your job search.
One more thing.
Yeah.
Thank you notes. Handwritten thank you notes.
Ah, yes.
That is one way to make yourself, you know what, it's a lonely job in HR and people don't often say thank you. To get a handwritten card on your desk with the mail, the first thing you do as a human being is, what is that? One. Two, that somebody took the time to handwrite a card of appreciation for my time and so forth. That says a lot about you as an individual and how you might be as an employee. So that's the one thing I just thought of.
Yes, it's always a nice touch. I know today we feel like I think email's okay for an immediate, quick thank you, but I think that if you also take the time to send a card and say, that was a really great process and I really appreciated it, and that's also a good thing to do. So,
millennial managers appreciate it too.
do what?
Millennial managers appreciate it too.
Yes. Age, we always talk about millennials, but to me it's just younger people, that's all, and we're all the same. So we have to remember that.
Right.
Well, this has been great, Mark. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. I want to let folks know that they can feel free to reach out to me anytime, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll be putting details of how to reach me in the post with this video. And everybody have a wonderful day today and really all month. Take care and see you soon.
Bye-bye.